In this video, we are going to talk about two of the most important concepts in programming: data types and variables. But first, let's open our Hello World project inside Visual Studio Code. Open CMD. Navigate to the project's directory, then to the Hello World directory, and type code space dot and press enter to open Visual Studio Code for this folder. Before we start discussing data types and variables, we need to understand the code we wrote in the last video. When we press Ctrl F5 to run our projects, the first thing Dart does is search for the main function. If it can't find it, we will see an error. To demonstrate this, I will delete our code and try to run the projects again. In the debug console, we see the message: invoked Dart programs must have a main function defined. This means that you can't run a Dart program without a main function. We will talk more about functions in later chapters, but let's briefly go over what the main function does. The keyword void means this function does not return any value after execution. Then comes the function name, main. Normally, we can name functions whatever we like, but since Dart expects a main function, we must use this exact name. Next, we have opening and closing parentheses, known as the parameter list. If our function needs any input, we would pass it inside these parentheses. Finally, we have curly braces, which form the function body. This is where we write the instructions we want Dart to execute when our function runs. You don't need to fully understand this yet. We will cover functions in more detail later. For now, just remember, every Dart program must have a main function. Inside the main function, we are calling another function called print. This function is not created by us. It is a built-in Dart function. The only job of print is to display text in the debug console. We can pass a message inside the parentheses, and Dart will print it when the program runs. Now that we understand the code from the last video, let's move on to data types. In order for computers to store information, they need to know what kind of information it is. The first data type we have already seen is string. A string is a sequence of characters enclosed in single or double quotes. Examples of string values would be "Hello World." This is a string. "123. This is still a string because it's inside quotes. Strings are used to store text-based data in Dart. Anything inside quotes is treated as a string, even if it looks like a number. We will use strings a lot when working with user input, messages, or any text-related data in Dart. When we pass strings to the print function, we are using string literals. A string literal is a directly written piece of text enclosed in quotes. For example, "Hello World" is a string literal because it is written directly inside the print function. We are not storing it anywhere, we are just using it immediately in our code. However, most of the time, it is more convenient to store information somewhere and use it when needed. In programming, we use variables to store information that we can reuse later. A variable is a named container that holds information. We can access, modify, and use this information throughout our program. The simplest way to create a variable in Dart is by using the var keyword. For example, if we want to store the string "Hello World" in a variable, we write var greeting =, which is called assignment operator, "Hello World" in quotes, and semicolon. This ends the instruction, telling Dart that this line is complete. Now, instead of passing a string literal directly to the print function, we can pass the variable greeting. Since greeting stores the value "Hello World," running the program again will give us the same output as before. In Dart, a variable must be declared before it is used in the code. This means that the line where we create the variable must come before any line that tries to use it. Using the greeting variable before declaring it results in a syntax error. This means Dart doesn't recognize the variable because it hasn't been created yet. The main advantage of variables is that we can change their values while the program is running. For example, we can first assign "Hello World" to the greeting variable, then change it to Hello Dart, and later update it to Hello Mars. When we execute the program, it will only print the last assigned value. However, if we add a print statement after each update, the program will print all values in sequence. Hello World, then Hello Dart, and finally Hello Mars. As we mentioned earlier, var is a keyword that allows us to easily create variables. When using var, Dart automatically detects the variable's data type based on the assigned value. However, we can also be more descriptive by explicitly specifying the data type when declaring a variable. Replacing the var keyword with string and running the program again produces the same output. Use var when you want Dart to figure out the type of the variable for you. It's easy and works well when the value makes the type clear. If you want to be more specific, you can use data type to make it obvious what kind of data the variable will hold. This can help avoid mistakes and make your code easier to understand. Let's create another example to learn about two more data types, int and double. I'm going to create three variables, one for the user's name, one for the user's age, and one for the user's height. Username will be a string because names are text. Age will be an int because age is a whole number. Height will be a double because height can have decimal values. We use integers when working with whole numbers and doubles when dealing with decimal numbers. We can print all the values in the console just like before by using the print function for each variable. Instead of printing each value separately, let's form a sentence. John is 23 years old. He is 175.5 meters tall. But what if, instead of hard-coding user information inside the string, we want to use variable values? We might try this. However, when we run the program, it doesn't work as expected. Instead of printing the actual values, it just prints username, user age, and user height as plain text. To fix this, we need to add a $sign before the variable names inside the string. The $sign tells Dart, this is not just a word, it's a variable, so use its value. That's more like it. Now, you might have a question. What if I actually want to print a $sign in my string? Let's create a new variable called money. And say that John has $50 at the end of the sentence. If we add another $sign before the variable money, we get a syntax error because Dart doesn't understand that we just want to insert a $symbol in the string. To fix this, we need to add a backslash before the first $sign to tell Dart that we want to print the $sign instead of treating it as a variable. Great job on making it to the end of this video. You've taken an important step in understanding variables and data types in Dart. While we've covered the basics, there's still a lot more to explore. Don't worry, we'll keep building on this knowledge in the upcoming videos. With each lesson, you'll get more comfortable writing Dart code and preparing for Flutter development. Before we wrap up, take some time to practice. Try creating a few variables using the var keyword, and also by specifying their data types. Experiment with different values and see how Dart handles them. And if you have any questions or need clarification, feel free to drop a comment. Keep practicing, and I will see you in the next video.